So Tom Aspinall recently gave us an update on the Jon Jones fight situation and what's going on behind the scenes and what he knows about why that fight is not taking place. And I'll be honest with you guys, it's time to consider taking Jon Jones' undisputed title away from him and promoting Tom Aspinall to either the undisputed champion right now or guaranteeing that his next fight is for the undisputed world championship. Let's go through this video with Tom Aspinall. I've also got some other things that I want to go through today as well. We're going to try and fix this problem, okay? Because apparently Jon Jones ain't playing ball right now with the UFC and the fight ain't looking likely, okay? Let's let it play. Tom Aspinall's going to say some things and I'm going to chuck in some extra help and ammunition. I'm going to be the reinforcements to Tom Aspinall's points in this video that he made. Let's let it play.
Where we're at right now is I have spoke to the UFC on multiple occasions about this fight. I'm chasing it up. I want the fight.
Like a true fighter would.
Been on record and said that I want the fight. I've been on the phone with the UFC saying that I want the fight. When's it happening? I want the fight more than anyone. What is holding it up right now is his side. That's the truth of it.
Now, we knew this, okay, because there are no demands from Tom Aspinall. He just wants to fight Jon Jones. The demands are from Jon Jones. Now, these demands weren't there for Stipe Miocic. They weren't there for a potential matchup against Alex Pereira for Jon Jones either. The demands are only there because Tom Aspinall is the next option. So we knew this. You know what I mean? We knew that it was Jon Jones holding it up. But I honestly thought that because there was silence about this whole situation, when I hear nothing going on and we don't hear anything about the negotiation, I'm thinking, oh, they're working something out behind the scenes. Apparently the silence is Jon Jones being silent when it comes to negotiating with the UFC.
The UFC really, really want the fight to happen. They've told me that.
Dana White said it many times now. He even said on a recent Instagram live that, you know, that's coming. We're working on that at the end of it when he was announcing a bunch of fights like Gaethje versus Fiziev.
As I said, this is one of the biggest fights that can be made in MMA right now.
In MMA history. In MMA history, there aren't many fights that can break that 1 million pay-per-view barrier. The fact that we've been almost robbed from it for so long, or robbed of it for so long, will make this the bigger fight. The fact that we even have this narrative is what's turning it into one of the biggest fights in UFC heavyweight history. Of course, there's Lesnar coming in with his numbers, but considering the streaming world right now and how people don't really pay for pay-per-views anymore, this would be one of the biggest fights in UFC history. Let's stop playing around here about right now in the sport. I'm not trying to go at Tom Aspinall here, but this genuinely would be one of the biggest fights in UFC history.
And everybody knows that. Everybody knows it. It's just...
We do.
Does he want to put himself in a position where he's comfortable enough financially to take the risk that he's taking to fight me? And that is where we're at. Like the UFC tell me, they assure me that they are doing everything they can to make this fight. So it's totally, as far as I'm aware, this is now totally down to Jon Jones and his team to work that out, because I'm in, the UFC are in. They assure me that they desperately want to make the fight. Every time I speak to them, they say we are working as hard as we can on the fight, and I'm literally just waiting for a date. I'm not bothered where it is. I'm not bothered who it's against, to be honest. It's not just the Jon Jones fight I'm looking for.
We'll get to the other ones, and that's going to be another part of this video. But what's really going on behind the scenes is most likely this. Jon Jones is setting a price that's way out of the realm of possibility that we're actually going to get. I think the UFC should just call his bluff, to be honest with you. I think it's worth that. If he's asking for like 30 million, this is one of the fights that's worth it. We need this for the lineage of the UFC heavyweight division moving forward. Okay? We just do. Either you get Jon Jones winning and you get the big massive moment and a massive pay-per-view and Jon Jones as superstar and then he retires from the sport. Who knows? We don't want that to happen, no. But on the other side, you get Tom Aspinall winning and we can move on and there can be some sense of a lineal champion, even though Jon Jones didn't fight no champ for it. You know what I mean? He fought for the vacant belt. You want to see that passing of the torch moment. That's healthy for the future of a division. You never want to see a guy who's the big GOAT just leave on top. That's the worst case scenario. So I think the UFC are probably like giving Jon Jones an offer of an amazing amount of money, but Jon Jones just isn't quite happy enough with it. He wants more. There's probably that game going on where he's asking for 30 and they're saying, we can do 20. And he's like, well, you gave me 10 last fight, so 20 is not too much different from 10. You know what I mean? I want 30. I want to make sure I'm set forever. This is a big one. And they're like, well, 21 maybe? And then that's what they're probably doing. They're lowballing him a little bit and they're trying to meet him in the middle somewhere financially when it comes to how they're going to get him to accept this fight. Okay, I think they should just call his bluff. If he's asking for 30, this is when you drop it. Dana, you're gambling millions every weekend anyway. You give fucking some guy from the fucking Nelk boys $250,000 just for fun because it's their birthday. We'll get into, you're literally like, I'm not even going to get into trashing Dana because I don't want to create any kind of friction behind this fight actually happening, which I feel like I actually did a little bit when it comes to Jon Jones. I almost feel like Jon Jones might be like out of spite. There's a part of him that's like, well, if I'm going to give MMA Guru what he wants, I want an extra $1 million from the UFC for this. I don't want to be too egotistical about it, but I feel like sometimes I am creating a bit of friction with this type of fight negotiation. But I'm still going to do my bit to hype it up. But I feel like that's what they should call his bluff. Empty out the pockets for this one moment. You've given McGregor those types of paydays. Maybe not 30 million, but you've given him 20-ish. I bet you they've given him 20-ish. You know what I mean? For the Khabib fight, you bet he's making at least 20 million for the Khabib fight. Come on. This is when you fork it out. If you're going to shill for him this long and keep him around in the sport, clearly it's for a reason. He clearly benefits the sport to be in it. And he does. The fights that he has are huge. They make headlines. They go viral. His fight with Stipe Miocic, even though it was an unwanted fight by the masses, it still did numbers. Imagine what numbers a fight that's actually wanted by the masses would do, including Jon Jones at this point. That's a real dangerous fight. Call his bluff. Give him the 30 mil. If there's a time to do it, it's now. We're going to move on to some other stuff because Tom Aspinall's now going to say, he's exploring the options of moving on from this, which needs to be done. I don't remember when last time Tom Aspinall fought. I think it was last July was the last time that Tom Aspinall fought. If he fights on International Fight Week, he'd have been out for a year and he's healthy. Fighters aren't healthy too often. You never know when an ACL tear is coming up, when a broken hand is coming up, when a broken nose is coming up. The worst thing you can be while you're healthy in MMA is on the shelf. And that's what Jon Jones is doing. I almost feel like, in a way, if he just dips out of this, even if the UFC's offering him a crazy amount of money, I feel like Jon Jones might be playing a game where he's just stalling out Tom Aspinall's career out of spite to sort of limit how much legacy he can get and make sure that the next time he gets in the cage, he's going to be rusty and he hasn't been in there for a while. There's a part of me that thinks Jon Jones might be playing that game. We're going to move on with some other things that Tom Aspinall says, but he gets back to the Jon Jones stuff in a bit.
I'm looking to fight, man. Like, I'm in shape. I've been working hard since way before Christmas. I've been in the gym twice a day. My diet's good. I've been sparring. I've got international training partners here.
And that costs. All of that costs. So this is what I mean about Jon Jones sort of stalling this out. He's been training over Christmas. Because for Tom Aspinall, this is the advantage that Jon Jones has. If Jones messages and says, 8 weeks, I'm ready, let's go. And Tom Aspinall's in fucking Spain on a sunbed or a fucking, on a sunbed by the pool, eating whatever he wants, then that's how Jon Jones is going to have an advantage here. That's the advantage that champions have. You move to the beat of their drum. You know what I mean? You don't call the shots as a contender, even though this guy is the legitimate champion of the division and we all know it, because Jones has a win over Ciryl Gane and old man Stipe, and Tom Aspinall's going to get to his resume in a second. He's needed to be training this whole time. You know what I mean? You can overtrain in that time. He's gone through Christmas. He's staying ready at all times now. He's making sure he's constantly in the gym. There's no holiday. Stress. You know what I mean? What if Jon Jones... What if they just say it's in 8 weeks? I can't go on holiday right now. I can't spend time with my family right now. So we can't allow this delaying to continue. If this fight ain't done by International Fight Week, take the belt off Jon Jones and put Aspinall on International Fight Week. We'll get to the options of who he could be against in a second.
I am prepared to fight.
Oh, say it, don't spray it, mate. Fucking hell. Jesus. Anyone, get your goggles on, boys. We're in the splash zone. Those veneers. You know what I mean?
I've been sparring. I've got international training partners here. I am prepared to fight anybody.
Come on! now!
So he's prepared to move on to whoever's next.
But what's holding it back is the UFC want to make the fight with me and Jon. And as far as I'm aware, it's now about, I don't know, maybe financial or otherwise, I'm not too sure, to be honest. But I'm just waiting for the call right now. I'm 100% ready to go.
And it has to be for the undisputed title, more important.
Yeah, so
Yes. That's a guarantee. There's no doing fights in the meantime while Jones has still got that belt round his waist. That can't happen. That makes it... The sport has already been made a joke of, okay? With an interim champ that's defended while Jones defends against Stipe with a completely different belt. The sport has already been made into a joke. We cannot continue this circus, okay? Undisputed is next. No other option.
yeah, so that's my thing. One sec. Let me get this up on my phone. So I'm going to get up the rankings on my phone because I feel like a lot of people, they feel that Jon is putting my career on hold, which
Just said it.
he is. He is to a degree for right now. There's nothing I can really do about it. Like I said, I want to fight. There's nothing that I can do. I've done everything. Let me just get this on. UFC heavyweight rankings.
So he brings up the UFC heavyweight rankings. Okay, and we're going to go through them. And he starts going through them and picking out opponents and just sort of considering other options. But come on, man. And you know what annoys me about all of this? This negotiation only exists because it's Tom Aspinall. If you go back through my videos that I was making about this whole situation, you'll see Jon Jones say there was no stipulations for a Pereira fight. There was no, oh, I need to be financially incentivized for this. Why? Because he thinks he's got Pereira's number. Okay? He reckons Pereira's a pure striker. He'll just go out there, take him down and beat him. There's no stipulations for the Stipe fight. That's just, I just need to fight him for my legacy. That's a big legacy one for me. Tom Aspinall, you say? Oh, well, 40 million? We need 40 million. Because why? Because this is a well-rounded opponent that is powerful and is Jon Jones' size or bigger. The first time Jones will have fought that in his career. DC exists, but the frame, come on. He's a fat featherweight, if we're being honest with ourselves here. But he's a fucking goated and he's well-rounded, don't get me wrong. But he ain't got the threat of shutting out Jones's lights like a Tom Aspinall. You know what I mean? Or just bulldozing him over with raw physicality when it comes to takedowns. He has all the technique and the ability, but he just isn't Tom. He's not 6'5", 260, lean muscle Tom Aspinall with one-shot power that can knock you out with a jab. That's just not DC. Jones is having these stipulations because this is the well-rounded opponent that we've been waiting for him to take on that is his size or bigger, that has power in his hands. Most champions go through that. Okay, we see it nowadays with Volkanovski challenging against Makhachev. Makhachev's trying to want to test himself at 170. We see like Duplessis going to eventually want to move up and fight at light heavyweight. And they all come up against their guy that should beat them. That's almost like Ilia Topuria's doing it right now. What are we talking about next for Ilia Topuria? We're talking about Makhachev. We're talking about Oliveira. We're talking about well-rounded, dangerous guys that are his size or bigger than him. And they are bigger than him. That's almost the trial for every champion these days. Oh, well, he defended the belt a few times, but let's see what he does against a well-rounded guy bigger than him. It's almost like the next step for every champion to make. Now, heavyweights aren't typically as well-rounded, and Stipe was an old man. So, there's some reasons for it, why Jones has maybe struggled to find that opponent in his career. But now the opponent's here. And it's funny that the stipulations of price and money are directly related to this matchup. That's always been my opinion on it. We're going to go through this, though. Tom Aspinall goes through the rankings.
Volkov is number 3 on this.
He's going through the, let me move my camera out of the way so you can see these. He's going through the Tapology rankings, okay, which is not the official UFC rankings, or Ciryl Gane would be above Volkov, and Ngannou wouldn't be at number 8. You know what I mean? If we're actually talking about world heavyweight rankings, let's face it, Ngannou's number 3. Maybe even number 2. But based Tapology for having Aspinall at number 1. Amazing, okay? They know what's going on, okay? I like that. And also, I like that Volkov's over Gane, because we all know he got robbed in that matchup. Either way. Look at Gaziev. Gaziev bursting on the scene. That's one name Tom just won't say. Okay? The real danger. Let's let him go through him, though.
Beat Volkov in the first round.
Yep.
Ciryl Gane. I'm yet to fight Ciryl Gane, not fought him. Been trying to fight him for about 3 years. Pulled out the fight or ducked the fight on multiple occasions. There's plenty of footage out there where you can find me calling out Ciryl Gane and him turning it down.
But Ciryl Gane's calling you out, says he wants to fight.
Oh, that's interesting. After I just called him out, went to France and he turned the fight down.
But
that's true. And he did say there's a lot of footage out there of Ciryl Gane ducking him. I'll do one better, Tom. Rather than just one clip from a little press conference of you saying so, I've done a whole fucking 20-minute breakdown twice for 2 different sets of evidence on Ciryl Gane ducking Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades earlier, like a year ago, I think this was. About a year ago, Ciryl Gane was on full retreat mode against Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades. I made a whole video about it. It popped off. It went kind of viral for me back then. Even now, that's good numbers as well. So that did very, 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 very well for the time that I posted it. And it's just like 20 minutes of evidence of a bunch of heavyweights saying, listen, Ciryl Gane ain't taking fights against us. We're trying to fight Ciryl Gane. We're trying to get these top contender matchups. He's looking for Tuivasa in Paris and Sergey Spivak in Paris, while Aspinall and Curtis Blades are right here at the top of the division looking for matchups as well. So there's truth to that, okay? Ciryl Gane is definitely an option. He really is. And I believe that the next best move to make in the heavyweight division would be Jailton Almeida versus Ciryl Gane. Okay, because that would prove that, okay, we'll see Ciryl Gane against a grappler because that's the area of his game we need to see him improve and prove that he has before we see him go back into a matchup against a guy who can just take him down and submit him in Tom Aspinall. That's Jon Jones' performance. And even the Volkov one recently, you got held down for the whole third round. Volkov's not a grappler. He don't offensively grapple people that well. And he did it to you pretty well in your matchup with him. So we need to see him deal with that problem. And that problem is Jailton Almeida right now in the heavyweight division when it comes to proving that you've got some level of grappling defense. So that's what I think should happen first. Okay? But we'll get back to this. He starts going through some other names. Just thought I'd back him up on the whole ducking thing. Again, I made a whole video about it. He literally was just... He said it himself. He literally said it himself in interviews. I don't want to risk it. They're risky matchups for me. So he was fighting Tuivasa and Spivak and these types of matchups instead against, you know, way less athletic and dangerous heavyweights at the time. But either way, just thought I'd give some evidence there for Tom.
He is on my list. If it's for the undisputed title, I'll take him out. Desperate for that fight.
I'd love to have a matchup for Ciryl Gane in the meantime. In my opinion, I don't have hype for Ciryl Gane fighting for an undisputed heavyweight championship after I just watched Volkov beat him. I need to see him shake that one off, in all honesty.
Curtis Blades fought him twice. The first time I was injured.
Yep.
Second time, I beat him in the first minute. Sergey Pavlovich beat him in the first minute. Yep. Jailton Almeida. Haven't fought Almeida. Up and coming. Very good from what I've seen. Mm-hmm. Again, I will absolutely fight him in a heartbeat.
No fear! Anyone can get it. And you know what? Jailton Almeida's number 7. And I think he might be lower than this. Because, of course, they ain't put a championship next to... Well, he might be number 7 because it would be naturally higher anyway. I think Jailton is about number 7 in the division. You don't want number 7 fighting for an undisputed world championship. You know what I mean? You'd love him to be in the top 5 first, at least. Which is why I think... And I'm shocked that there ain't like these... When Tom Aspinall was waiting for Jon Jones... He weren't sitting out like Ciryl Gane's doing right now. He defended an interim belt to stay busy. Risked it all against Curtis Blades. One, because we kind of needed him to fix that, you know, asterisk in his career. But I'm surprised that we ain't got Gane and Almeida right now being like, yeah, let's fucking get this fight made. Let's stay busy and let me prove myself in the meantime. Because, you know, what if Jon Jones doesn't fight Tom? One of us is going to be the option. So let's fight each other and prove who the option is. I'm surprised there's no... I think Almeida's been calling out Tom, and Almeida's been calling out everyone because he's lower in the rankings, but I guess it's Ciryl Gane. There's no machismo. You know what I mean? No one's putting their cojones on the line right now at heavyweight with all of this time off that we're waiting for this Tom Aspinall, Jon Jones thing to figure itself out. No one's laying down the law right now, okay? No one's got the cojones for it. We need to bring cojones back to the heavyweight division. What's going on?
If the UFC want to do it for an undisputed title, because that's what I deserve.
Yep.
Well,
Oh, God.
Well,
So
The adverts, what a waste. I don't even know what that was.
Spivak beat him
Sergey Spivak.
in the first round.
He did.
Tibora beat him in the first round.
He did.
And that's most of the top 10. So the only 2 guys I've not fought in the top 10, 3 guys, are Jon Jones. Who else? Ciryl Gane and Almeida.
It's kind of crazy how much work he's put in. I know, his wins have aged well, and, in other circumstances, Spivak could have gone on a loss streak. But Spivak's won some fights in the meantime. Tybura could have, dipped out the sport, gone on a loss streak after that. But Tybura's been winning fights here and there as well. It's actually shocking that, all of the guys that he's beaten have still proven that they are top 10 level at heavyweight. So it looks really good for his resume. Jon Jones is the guy next up that he hasn't fought. Gane is ducking. And I think he needs to prove a little bit more before we see him in an undisputed title fight again, because he lost to Ngannou, even though I thought he won. He lost to Ngannou, and he lost easily to Jon Jones. You don't want him in an undisputed title fight right now until he does a bit more proving. Let's just keep it real. And then also the Volkov performance was shit. And other than that, it's Jailton Almeida, who lost to Curtis Blades, has since rebounded, I believe, against Romanov, and then Romanov and then Spivak, right? And then Spivak had moments, but, Almeida ended up finishing him early. Impressive. We just need a bit more. So all of the people that Tom hasn't fought, there's great reasons for why he hasn't fought him yet, or reasons with Almeida where he just hasn't reached the area of a Tom Aspinall matchup yet. If Almeida would have beaten Curtis Blades, this would be a different conversation right now. It would be like, well, Almeida's an option that they could have, but we need to see Gane Almeida first. You know what I mean? That's what we need to see.
They're the only 3 guys who have not beaten the top 10. And the other guys have beaten the first round. So if it's for the undisputed title, as I've said a million times, and the UFC are on board with this, I will absolutely fight anyone in a heartbeat. I'm ready to go. I want to be as active as possible. I want to get as many big fights with as many big guys as possible. Not here to turn anyone down.
That's the fucking heavyweight champ! No stipulations. No storming out of a family fucking event at the moment. Accidentally going live on Instagram because you're drunk. This is the fucking heavyweight champ. That's the mentality we need back in the division. This is the Duplessis energy, the Makhachev energy, the Marab. We need these guys. And you need to value these guys that are just out there saying, I want this, that, and this. I ain't here to play around and ask for money and all of this. I'm here for the competition of it. Those guys need to be valued more in the sport.
Not here to be a diva. Not here to get more money. I'm here to be exciting, to do what I love, and to go out there and finish guys. And that is what I absolutely want to do. But
Jones loves finishing guys as well.
Right now, it is not me holding up this division. Let's get it moving.
Ciryl Gane, Alex Pereira, you name it.
Any of them. I didn't get into this sport to duck and dive and duck out the way of people. That's not my style. I want to get in there and I want the bell to ring and me and the other guy to go at it and see who wins. That's what I'm interested in. That's what I love.
So he brought up the name Alex Pereira, which I think is very important as well, and we can get to that here too. I think Alex Pereira is a massive, what do I even want to say? Not a spanner in the works. He's a massive factor when it comes to how this Jon Jones-Tom Aspinall negotiation is going to go. Because I personally believe we've got this matchup coming up soon. Magomed Ankalaev, Alex Pereira. It's Pereira's toughest test. It's a winnable fight for him. It's also a very winnable fight for Ankalaev. It's a gamble for the UFC. This is a 50-50 matchup. You can pick whatever you want here. One person's going to be dumb. The other person's going to be a genius. You know what I mean? It's just one of those matchups. A lot of the fights on the card this weekend are like that on UFC 313. Alex Pereira, Magomed Ankalaev. He mentioned Alex Pereira there. Now, I think this is an option. If Pereira beats Ankalaev, fuck the Jones fight for now. We ain't holding shit up anymore. International Fight Week, Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira. Because there ain't anything else for him to do at light heavyweight. The winner of Allberg Blachowicz is arguably hardly undeniable. Even though Blachowicz had a great performance against Pereira, arguably could have won. A lot of people don't like that uncomfortable truth. Either way, Allberg, he would have won, but, he's still new in the division. I reckon the winner of Blachowicz versus Allberg should fight Yuri Prohaska. That's probably the next best scenario. And I don't think the winner of Khalil Roundtree versus Hill is going to be right back into title contention either. If Ankalaev were to lose to Pereira, the winner of Hill versus Roundtree would probably end up fighting him. You know what I mean? That's probably the natural order of the division if Pereira were to win this weekend. And if Pereira does win this weekend, triple champ status. One of the first times we've seen it in the first time we've seen it in UFC history. We rarely even have an option for a guy to go up 3 different belts. But Pereira is one of the rare few that has actually made this a possibility. That would be legacy beyond belief. So I think if Pereira beats Ankalaev, the UFC might go, well, you know what, John? We needed you before because we didn't really have any other options for Tom. Get fucked. We'll just do Aspinall versus Pereira. And maybe then, after they strip John of the belt and they have the Pereira versus Aspinall fight for undisputed, maybe then after that big fight, then the UFC would be willing. I'm wishing a lot here. There's a terminology for wishful thinking. I'm having a lot of wishful thinking here when it comes to the way this is going to go. But maybe in an ideal world, Pereira Aspinall happens. It does amazing pay-per-view numbers. It's a super massive fight. The fight with Jones is built up even more if Aspinall wins. If Pereira beats Tom, I could so see John looking to come back anyway and just fight him without any of the money involved. If Tom beats Pereira, maybe it would entice John even more. Or maybe it would entice the UFC to realize the value of that fight even more enough to give Jones the money that he's demanding here. For the Aspinall fight only. Because I seriously think if Pereira beats Ankalaev, I just spat there. If Pereira beats Ankalaev and then beats Tom somehow, I don't see it happening, but it could. If he does that, I reckon Jones would be like, oh, did I say 30 million? Whatever, I'll just come back and fight. I think he'd be more willing. I just think he knows that the threat is Tom Aspinall. And for Pereira, if he beats Ankalaev here, he'd become a bigger name. And I remember a post that he made, okay, right here on his Instagram. It's not that long ago. And I think it was after he defeated Khalil Roundtree. He posted this image on his Instagram page with 875,000 likes. There is demand for the Alex Pereira versus Tom Aspinall super fight. Absolutely true. That would be one of the biggest fights in UFC history also. So that's an option. Even Tom responded to this with a handshake. Alex Poatan Pereira, 25,000 likes on a comment. Nunes barely sold 25,000 pay-per-views. You know what I mean? So this is an option. I think Pereira plays a very key role. And I think the UFC is hoping and praying that he will beat Ankalaev. Because then they can play this game with John where it's like, John knows right now if he dips out and they don't give him the money that he wants, he could be like, well, you don't have anything else, so I'm kind of the guy you have to pay. You have to pay me right now. That's Jon Jones' mindset. There's no other matchup for Tom. The heavyweight division would be dead without me versus Tom Aspinall, so I'm out. You got to pay me a crazy amount of money. He has negotiation power here. If Pereira beats Ankalaev, the UFC can say, well, we don't fucking need you. We have a super fight now at heavyweight. And we have Aspinall versus Pereira. And that gives them more leverage to where John might be like, no, wait, don't forget about me. You know what I mean? It is that game with negotiations when it comes to how much money and stuff like that. So, we'll see what happens. Those are the options. I think Tom Aspinall has a bit of a closing statement here in this video. If I go to 13:38, I was timestamping this out earlier. 13:38. I think he repeats what he said before. Right around here. Here we go.
With Jon Jones questions. I remember what I said quite a while ago now. I will retire Jon Jones without even fighting him. That's something that I said. And
he did.
John, let's do it. If you want to do it, you don't have to ask me twice. If not, I'll fight somebody else for the undisputed belt. Happy to fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. Doesn't matter. I'm ready to go.
As long as it's for the undisputed title. I will say this, Tom. We could up the ante. Okay? All right? And listen, this is the problem because a lot of UK fighters, and it's not even a UK fighter thing, it's just an English-speaking fighter thing. They're almost sort of like coerced into being a horrible person in order to get what they want in this sport. And I'm not just talking about the Covington situation, but we see it quite a bit. You know, these guys, they don't get what they want. They don't get the matchups that they want. They don't get treated well by the UFC until they have some level of controversy or some level of like saying something that's crazy. You know what I mean? Or making themselves look like a bad person in order to get the hype that they want. You know what I mean? That seems to be an ongoing trend. You know, Makhachev don't need to do that for his popularity. Maybe it's a fucking critique on Western culture in general. It probably is, to be honest with you. It is just a Western culture problem where we don't seem to value guys unless they make themselves like a villain and do bad things. You know what I mean? Whereas, you know, Makhachev's going to have his support regardless. You know? Umar, if he would have become champ, he would have had that support regardless. You don't need to go crazy and have a controversy in a moment like this, you know what I mean? But it's almost like it's becoming, we're relying on Tom to do that. So I don't think he's going to go that way. I don't think he's going to say all that stuff. He wants to be a representative, a role model to men in the UK, which seems to be his sort of career trajectory. Outside of asking Nina what would it take, there's nothing he's really done wrong in his whole career. You know what I mean? In terms of bad moments. And that Nina drama thing, she was saying that like, before the interview, she actually cleared this up, but no one even looked at it. And now the clip of him saying it goes viral. She was saying that she gets questions all the time about, did you let so-and-so finger you for an interview? Did you suck so-and-so's this for an interview? And all of that. And then he sort of did a throwback to that. But that conversation happened before she even started recording. So there was no context to it. Weird and a failed joke, yes. But there was some level of context where he was like, oh, I'm going to ask her what she was telling me the fans always ask her. Have you been thinking about an MMA fighter? And then he went, what would it take? Crazy. But he doesn't want to go down that path. But it might be time to show up to Jackson Wink and throw a duck at Tom. And throw a duck at Jon Jones. Can you imagine if we caught that on video somehow? There's recording of Jon Jones doing an interview in his gym, and out of nowhere, just a fucking squeaky duck toy just bounces off the side of his head. Hello, John. How's it going, mate? It doesn't have to be saying crazy shit. It doesn't have to be bringing up domestic violence and PEDs and he's gay and all of this. It doesn't have to be bringing up all that stuff that I do for you, okay? Let me handle that, Tom. What it could be, though, throw a brick through his window with a duck attached to it. Just baby stuff. You know, entry-level stuff, you know, barely a problem with it type of stuff. Just show up on his property unannounced type of stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know if he's going to do that, but you got to find where he's at, Tom. If this ain't going well and they're still negotiating this and that, you got to trigger Jon Jones's anger and spite. He's got to want to beat the shit out of you. I don't think he does. I don't think he thinks he can. That's my honest take on it. And it seems like his actions are showing that very clearly. You got to try and get Jon in a way that don't make you look that bad to want to beat the shit out of you. To bypass the extra few million and think, you know what, I'm angry and I want to beat this guy up. I don't know how he's going to do it. We'll see. You know what I mean? We'll see. We'll see what happens. Either way. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I thought I'd cover this situation. But yeah. We can get the Jones fight or we can move on. And if we're going to move on, I think it's heavily dependent on Pereira winning this weekend. Heavily dependent on that. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in a state of limbo. And it's going to be, we're going to downgrade to Aspinall Gane. And no one wants a downgrade. When you have an expectation for something, you know, reactions are based upon expectations. That's just the truth of life. All reactions, when it comes to anything in this world, are based on expectations. That's absolutely true. So if we have an expectation of Jon Jones Aspinall, the reaction to Aspinall versus Gane is going to be shit. And that's just true. But if we get Pereira, it's going to be a little bit different. So we'll see what goes down. But yeah, let's fucking get a move on in this division. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you later. Goodbye. I'll be in your corner for the fight, Tom. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm throwing a spanner in the works, if Jon's going to have a hissy fit about it, but, you know, if you want to bring me on as psychological warfare coach, I'm there, you know? See you later. Goodbye.